Christmas, and I'm not feeling up to par. It increases my paranoia, like looking at a mirror and seeing a police car. But I'm not giving in an instant feel, 'cause I miss myself this year, and I feel like I owe
Good evening, everybody. The Old Wolf here with you again for another episode of The Witch and the Wolf Wisdom. Coming at you live. It is Tuesday, January 24th, 8 p.m. Oh, almost 8:01 Eastern Standard Time. Make sure we have our numbers right. Numbers matter. And yes, tonight's episode 54, The Magic of David Crosby. Unfortunately, yes, tonight's going to be one of those bittersweet type of things, at least for me. I feel compelled, just like I am on a lot of things, to talk about it because it is something that has impacted me. David Crosby, for those of you who don't know, is an iconic musician, was a member of a band in the 60s called The Byrds, and then was a member of another very famous band, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, on occasion. But David Crosby also played with a lot of people. He played with the Grateful Dead. He played with Janis Joplin. He played with the Rolling Stones. He played with Jimi Hendrix. He is one of those guys that has been around the scene for a long time, and in many ways, he was one of the last of the old guard. Don't get me wrong, there are still a few more floating around, but none that will ever, I think, fit the shoes of Cros, as he was affectionately known within his friends and the music industry. So yeah, tonight is about David Crosby. No coincidence, and I took it as kind of a sign of the universe. And I talked about this earlier. Just a few days ago, I had posted a clip from our new Thursday night sessions with some people that we've met and that we are blessed to be making music with. One of the things that we're doing with this project is doing old tunes, and some of those old tunes are by David Crosby. So, ironically, working on, doing a translation of his music, and unfortunately, a few days later, he passes. So again, it is a bit bittersweet. In the post that I had made on Old Wolf Music, my mother introduced me to David Crosby when I was a kid, and his music had, again, a profound impact on my life, as did other musicians. But again, certain things, especially within the context of music, have certain memories. And they're not always the best memories, but some of them are incredible memories. And some of the incredible memories that I do have tie back into David Crosby's music, specifically with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. One of the first songs I remember attempting to play on acoustic guitar was from their album Deja Vu. And I'll talk about it a little bit later, but David Crosby was also known for some pretty interesting guitar tunings, which I have used variations of over the years in some of my music. So there are influences that carry forward. So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. First thing, as always, I like to talk about our friends and family and the things that they have going on. And we will start all the way down here We're going to start with moonbeams. I almost said boom beams. Hey, Bobby and Sherry, boom beams. You got the boom beams for us? So yeah, moonbeams. Our sisters Bobby and Sherry, some really, really nice stuff, magical stuff, powerful stuff. They are very actively involved. If I'm not mistaken, they're going to be participating in another one of those witches ball.
I think they are, yeah.
Type of things that have been going on in Texas, and they're all over the country, at different times, different years. But you can check them out on Facebook and Instagram, Moonbeams. Mention the witch, Lady Shiya, and get 20% off your first order. So definitely check them out. We also have our sister Suzanne, Mystical Moons, and she also is very magical, very intuitive, very sweet person. Again, humbled to call her sister.
Absolutely.
And she also dances within the realm of the raw crystals. For those of you that like to create, or those of you that are into the more organic dynamic versus the polished. And don't get me in, she still has a lot of beautiful polished stuff within Frameworks Jewelry, but she has lives that she does regularly where she gets all those incredible raw crystals and at really good prices. So if you're a crystal person, if you're into that type of thing, she is definitely somebody to check it out. You can check her out on Facebook.com/MysticalMoonsLive, or you can check her out at MysticalMoons.com.
Tell her the witch and the wolf sent you.
Yep, you'll get a discount too. All these discounts.
I like discounts.
Of course, as always, we have our sister Ashley Hart, who will be coming on the show, by the way, in the next month or so. She's going to come on here live with us, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things. Some of it magic, some of it fuckery, some of it, who knows? You never know. We do this show live, and as always, again, in case I forget to mention it, because I'm not a professional broadcaster, the views, expressions, opinions, thoughts, fuckery expressed by us are mine and mine alone, and sometimes they're witches. And they can be yours too, because we share and believe in, the common dynamic of strength in numbers.
If our answer helps you find your answer, then go for it.
The music that started off the show was myself with a band I was in many years ago called Glass Sun, and that was our interpretation of a David Crosby song called Almost Cut My Hair. So it kind of felt, fitting. And I'm also not going to lie, because of the way royalty elements are, yeah, I can't actually play the classic radio track of it. I'm sorry, but, we don't have the kind of money to license,
give us some money
hit music. Yeah, feel free. Come on, try us live, give us a bunch of money, and we'll start putting that stuff in there. But I'm a big fan, and even David Crosby used to say himself, he was a fan of the live dynamic. Studio albums are great. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. It's a place to tell a story. But performing live is what he loved and where he believed the magic begins. And up until his death, he was in his 80s. He was still out there performing. You know what I mean? And, he was a rough-edged guy, by his own words. He burnt most of the bridges in his life. He struggled with drug addiction. He struggled with anger and identity, self-esteem issues. But as he got older in life, he found more of a balance, I guess you could say. And again, in his own words, he made it a point to try and shift some of the dynamics. He was a realist. Certain things you can't change. They are what they are. But he believed, if nothing else, that what he had to offer in his music was important. So he continued to do it. And he continued to do it in ways, I think, that really went against the mainstream. But by the way, we're talking about my sister Ashley Hart, Dream Catchers with Intention. Yes. You can check her out at Hearts Creations. Okay, Facebook.com/Hearts, and that's HARTS Creations. Tell her we sent her, and she'll take care of you. But again, powerful magic, incredible design, artistry, and really, in the scheme of things, one of her powerful dream catchers is cheaper than what it would cost, for, dinner at fucking Sizzler. Not even a good place. You know what I mean?
Sizzler, is that even still a thing?
I don't know. That's a great question. I have no answer on that. But it was, you know, it's that kind of in the middle, not quite McDonald's, but, you know, definitely not going to get any Michelin stars at Sizzler, if there are fucking any still around. But yeah, check her out again. Heart's Creations. Dream Catchers with Intention. And last but not least, okay, and I'm going to do this from a 2-point thing. First, I'm gonna pop this out. My brother, Tattoo Tony Rodriguez. Tomorrow, January 25th, the man will be turning 50 years old. He made it. You made it, man. I don't know if you're listening to this, if you're going to listen to it. I'm going to call you in the morning anyway, wish you a fucking happy birthday. I'm going to bother you. You know what I mean? Remind you that, yeah, you too, bitch, you too. But genuinely, I love this guy. I consider him family. He is a brother. But tomorrow's his birthday. And he's got his fingers in a whole lot of things. Again, he is an award-winning tattoo artist and owner of the Under My Skin tattoo shop in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. He is also the bass player and founder of a band called Broken Past, which myself and my son played in a few years ago. And he's also the owner and design artist and pretty much does everything guy for the Papo Sticker Company. The Papo Sticker Company is basically, you know, take any creative idea you have and turn it to fucking anything you can imagine. A bumper sticker, a t-shirt, a hoodie, a dildo. Hey, whatever works for you. He's done, you know, custom patches. He's done, you know, all types of stuff. And again, within the framework, really, that's only limited by your imagination. So you can check him out at papostickercompany.com. Even if you just want to send him an email and be like, hey, fucker, I heard you're turning 50 years old, so fuck you, happy birthday. Tell him the wolf sent you. But also on the other side, and for those of you who maybe, you know, would be down in that area, March 3rd, 2023, at the Stone Pony on Ocean Avenue, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Broken Past will be headlining with their new singer. Yes. Okay. 3 of the guys are still the same. You got Tony still on bass. You got Wayne White on guitar. And you got Brian Stagger on drums. I apologize. I cannot, for the love of fucking God, remember their new singer's name. But I will get to learn his name. And as soon as they start putting out music, I will feature them on here as always. But yes, they're going to be playing Broken Past March 3rd at the Stone Pony with Black Rose Rebellion, Spawn Ranch, and Corbett Corpus. Now, Black Rose Rebellion and Spawn Ranch both also played at the autism event in September that myself and others played at. So you got some really good bands here, some good rock and roll, some good metal. If you're into that type of thing, it's a cheap show. I mean, really, for the type of music, the type of venue, it's an iconic place. It's a lot of fun. You know, where else can, you know, you can pay 10, 15 bucks to go see multiple bands these days? You know, most of the venues are charging ridiculous amounts of money, and some of this is post-COVID, but let's be honest, some of it's fucking greed. But if you're out in the, you know, Jersey Shore area, March 3rd, Stone Pony, you can reach out to any of the bands or Stone Pony to get tickets. I recommend going through the band because it's better for them. And you can reach Tony at brokenpastnewjersey.com, okay, or at Under My Skin for Life, tat2.com. But yeah, if you're out there, show them some love. Go get a beer at the Pony and enjoy some music, as they say. So happy birthday, my brother. Love you, and we'll see you soon. So yeah, getting back to some of the other little things. They're not really so much as little, but one of the things that Shiya decided she wanted to do with all the submissions we've been getting, and one of the things we're going to do later is we do have some poetry that was submitted by somebody out there. But as a lot of times, we talk about the dynamic of strength in numbers and giving back. So Shiya came up with this idea. Everybody that submits in an idea, a poem, a story, a funny fucking meme, whatever it is going to get entered to win a free private tarot reading with none other than Take It Away. This is your cue. Okay. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Please.
Hey.
Tell us about yourself.
So, yeah, the ones that Wolf chooses to use on his podcast, everybody who submits them, and I don't care if you have 20 of them, if he uses all 20 of them, that's 20 entries. Okay. That's just the way that is. Every submission he uses is going to be entered into a drawing for a free reading at the end of the month. So the first podcast of the new month is when we will be announcing the winner from it. Yay! Free private reading, 30 minutes with me.
Doesn't get any easier. And again, she has graciously, said, hey, listen, people are sending them in anyway. And don't get me wrong, we really appreciate it. We believe, again, in the dynamic of sharing, all these different perspectives. This is, again, will be the second set of poems that we will be doing. We've had, do dirty limericks count as poetry? Brother Jonathan, depends. Context.
Did you write it?
I mean, if it's somebody else's stuff, you got to be a little bit, careful on it.
That's why we asked for your original shit.
Right. So, if you want to take something, rip it the fuck apart and repiece it together so that way you're not on the hook for plagiarism and I'm not on the hook for promoting said plagiarism. But I'm a firm believer that fucking words are words. You can't say, well, that's my word. Now, granted, I understand, you can't just run around and use Black Sabbath's name. Okay, but I can talk about a Black Sabbath that isn't the fucking band. Black Sabbath doesn't necessarily have to replace, so again, context being what it is, you really have to look at it for what it is. But yes, as far as I'm concerned, anything that people submit, if we use it, and in your context, we, would take a look at what you submitted, and if it was too far off the beaten path, we'd have a conversation with you. But listen, we've had conversations out here about licking beavers' assholes. Okay, we've had conversations about horrible stuff, sexual stuff. We try not to limit the conversation. I don't believe that it's healthy. Now, granted, there's always that thin line. You know what I mean? There are certain things that, yes, are not appropriate and, really shouldn't be framed, at least to some degree, within the public forum. So I do try and be cognitive, because, again, I don't want to offend anybody, again, unless you're a fucking Scientologist or a child molester, but, outside of that, I try and love. Drunk, my brother, good to see you. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And my sister Courtney says, Frank and Shiya, love, I just came in about licking beavers' assholes. Yeah. That's what you get for just showing up in the particular thing. Now, again, there's two ways to interpret this. This could either be like, again, Courtney's, oh my God, they're licking beavers' assholes? Or this could be, hypothetically, and maybe an alternate reality, damn it, why aren't they talking about licking my asshole? See, that's my reaction. Be like, well, listen, if somebody's going to lick a beaver's asshole, why doesn't anybody want to taste my asshole? Honey, you want to answer that question? I
don't think that you're vanilla flavored.
I'm not vanilla flavored, obviously.
Yeah, or
so there's the reason why I will obviously never get my asshole licked unless I decide to go out and buy it. No, listen, Honey, it is great to see you. Hopefully everything is good in your world. Hoping Gio is doing good. I know he's growing up and coming into his own. And, I see some of the social media stuff that comes out from people, mutual people that we know, Shelby and others and stuff. Looks like everybody's doing good. But you know me, I'm up here north of the fucking wall doing my fucking thing. And, for the most part, with certain exceptions, and you being one of them, I don't usually hear from people unless they fucking want something or need something. And that's just human nature. I'm cool with it for the most part. You know what I mean? You and I have had this conversation over years because you dance the same dynamic. And it just tends to be part of the curse of being a fucking high-functioning empath is that people tend to use us. You know what I mean? And they use us in ways that makes us feel disposable sometimes. And again, not reflective of you, but in general, and we both know how, social media is and, everything that goes along with it. So, yeah, and it says, just got a new job, things are looking up. That's fucking great. Really great to hear. So, yeah, very cool. So, yeah, it's one of the odd little things, and beautiful things. You know what? I take that back. Not odd, beautiful. Many of the circles that Shiya and I have, cross into beyond just the internet. We go places and we actually interact with people. We were in New Orleans, we were in Texas, we've been in New Jersey, we've been in New York, Virginia, and we have friends and family, all over the place.
We really do.
And a lot of our extended family, right? A lot of our extended family are in different places for a variety of different reasons. So that's always going to be a continued dynamic. The music is so many things going on.
Oh my gosh.
Musically. And again, as I said earlier, no coincidence, with David Crosby passing that, okay, that this is, at least to some degree, we have to carry shit forward.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about Cross. And that's a Cross shot from not too long ago. And you can see my man there is still styling with the 12-string. Now, again, no coincidence. I have been posting recently about some of the stuff I've been writing on 12-string. I use a 12-string guitar for a lot of my composition work. And again, obviously, it is a direct influence from this guy here, David Crosby, who wrote a lot of his music, especially within the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which said 12-string. There's a dynamic harmony if you're into the nuances of energy and how it relates to musical notes that just creates a wider field. And I've always really loved how a 12-string sounds within particular, dynamics of, melodies and such. But yeah, that was something, again, that I picked up from as a child. And, no coincidence, my mother was the one who introduced me to that aspect. And she and I were just, talking the other day about it, how, those elements now, so many years later, still carry forward. And it goes back to the dynamic that I just mentioned. It's upon us to preserve, to maintain, to cherish, if you will, these dynamics. We're the ones that keep it alive. Now, you can make a case and say, okay, well, you guys got a bunch of fucking albums, so that will last for as long as people listen to music. Yes, but it's still a dynamic that represents how we connect with the music. And there are stories that go along with it. Some songs you can sing along with. Some songs reflect, moments in our lives. Anybody who's ever watched a Hollywood movie knows that music is used to set the mood and create an atmosphere, a dynamic, an emotion.
It's magic.
It's magic. It really is.
It's magic.
And thank you, Courtney. Yes, we are grateful to have amazing family like you as well, and
yes,
positive energy.
Love you, Courtney.
It's a two-way street. Again, strength in numbers. It is. We kind of, we compensate for each other when and where we can. Unfortunately, we don't get to see you as often because you live down outside the wall and we're up here. But we will try and make it a point, to get back down there again once, the winter decides to go the fuck away.
Yeah, fuck winter.
Yes, I believe in magic.
Do you believe in magic?
Now, I'm not sure if Drunk's getting ready to sing because that little tilde swiggly, that to me implied the dynamic that...
Yeah, my brain went to the song.
That there was music. Yeah, no, listen. And it is, again, case point and example. Certain things trigger different things in us, especially when it comes to music.
Where's the story you promised me? Because I went and bugged the wolf to go check his mail because I wanted to read whatever the hell story you said you were typing out. I am so ready to hear this story because it's going to be good.
Well, my sister Courtney, this is the moment in time where I have to tell you...
Fuck off!
Fuck off!
Fuck off!
fucking snow magic. It's not snow magic, okay? It's not. It sucks. People don't know how to drive in it.
No.
It's just, listen, I like the aesthetic dynamic of just, okay, here's a little bit of cool white shit to frame it. But after that,
nope.
I'm so done with fucking winters. See, you got a kid. You got a young kid. Like, you know my son. Courtney knows my son as well, too. He fucking hates shoveling snow. I won't even shovel. I'm not. I will not. I will pay somebody to do it. I don't want to die. I've read too many stories about guys my age that go out trying to be macho cool, shoveling snow, and then that one fucking scoop just makes your fucking heart explode. I'm not going out like that, okay? I'd rather die on the toilet. Really. Truthfully.
Like Tywin Lannister?
No, I don't want to die in the toilet with a bunch of crossbow bolts in my fucking chest. Well, that's fucked up. See, this is what I have to live to.
I'm the witch is what I do at Cheeky.
Send it to wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. And listen, here's the simple contact, drunk, and don't even sweat this. It could just simply be the server. Technology being what it is, certain things sometimes, for whatever reason, will take a little bit of fucking time. You can send it, and depending upon your email server where you're at, and then it's got to go through this, that, and the other thing. So it doesn't always get to us quickly, so you may be fine. But anything anybody wants to submit, be it artwork, poetry, music, comedy, if you want to share a story, an experience, if you got a question.
I really want to.
I'm not checking my fucking email now. That ain't happening. I'm live. So anything that it comes from this point will be next week.
You know what I want to hear?
What do you want to hear?
I want to hear the what the fuck stories.
Shiya wants the what the fuck stories.
I want the what the fuck stories or the fuck, the FMLs. Remember the FMLs, the fuck my life stories?
Yeah,
yeah. I got stuck in a taxi cab and it smelled like dog shit. And I looked down and I stepped in a pile of dog shit sitting in a taxi cab. Fuck my life.
I don't know if you guys really want to submit the dog shit stories. I mean, that's really on you. But I want to
hear that really.
She obviously wants your dog shit stories.
I want the craziest story you got, man.
So yeah, anything at all. Literally, you want to talk about something. If you want to talk about dream walking, or if you've got, yeah, it just may not have popped up in the email server, so don't even worry about it. We'll get to it. My sister Hadassah, great to see you, and Marcia, welcome.
Marcia.
Thank you for joining us. So yeah, we're talking about David Crosby. Now, one of the things that we've been doing for 2023 with some of the dynamics now with the open usage laws, and especially in regards to certain types of material, one of the things that I can and will continue to do are movie trailers for things that I feel might be worth taking a look at. Maybe not. But hey, if you don't know about it, you don't even have an opportunity. And that's my philosophy, that I'd rather people have the opportunity to experience, to personally maybe, taste something that they haven't tasted before. So we're going to start off tonight, and I'm going to do a trailer, no coincidence, in regards to, the unfortunate loss of David Crosby. And it's a movie from a couple years ago, done by a guy by the name of Cameron Crowe. And Cameron Crowe is a very well-known rock journalist. He was the inspiration, pretty much the character storyline for a movie called Almost Famous.
Love that.
He was married to Nancy Wilson from Heart. He has been around all of the rock bands, especially the bands like Crosby, Stills, Nash, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, pretty much any name rock and roll band, Deep Purple, Heart, David Bowie, Frank Zappa. He's pretty much interviewed fucking everybody that wasn't already dead before he showed up. And he was doing it when he was a kid. He was doing this when he was a teenager. So this is a guy that I've respected for a long time. I love his work. And again, especially in, the shitty reality here with, David Crosby passing. Sometimes a story is best told by the man himself. So without further ado, I am going to premiere here tonight the trailer for David Crosby, Remember My Name. So we're going to play that. Yeah, and Jeff Beck croaked last week too. I know. It's like the old guards are dropping. We'll talk about that a little bit too in a few minutes. So yeah, we're going to play this little trailer, and this is available on Starz right now. So if you have a Starz subscription, you can actually watch this on cable. It's available on demand through Amazon and all the other fucking streaming services, but it's definitely worth it. So check it out. We'll be back in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Crosby.
Do you ever wonder why you are still alive?
I don't know. No idea, man. I'm 76 years old. I've had 3 heart attacks. I've got 8 stents in my heart.
I don't think people know how sick he really is.
The last few years, I made 4 solo albums. I'm going for 5.
If I had ever been here before, I would follow.
I was not easy. Big ego, no brains. I don't think I was a good lover. I think I was selfish.
If I had ever been here before.
I had fallen in love with Christine. All of a sudden, she didn't come home. There's just this emptiness, this gone. It's like a rip in the fabric. A friend of mine gave me a shot of heroin. Feels great. Only the first time. After that, you're just trying to catch it, and you never get back there. Ever. That's the house our house was written about, right there. That's where Crosby, Stills, and Nash sang their first song together.
He became a fugitive from the law.
I got a ride to the local FBI agency. He said, "You're looking for me. My name's David Crosby."
This is the first interview that we ever did.
My father says that money, glory, fame, chicks, none of it counts. The only thing counts is whether you got any friends.
What happened to your friends?
All the guys that I made music with won't even talk to me. All of them. You say stuff and do stuff that's just awful. Me more than anybody else.
It's just sad, and I don't quite know how to undo it,
I'm touring because I love to sing. The hardest part is just leaving home. I don't like to leave home. I love it here.
I have to say, go, honey, have fun, and I might not ever see him again.
If I were to say no music, but you get extreme joy in your home life, do you make that trade?
No music? No, not interested. It's the only thing I got to offer, really.
We shall be free.
This is really where I feel alive.
So yeah, that was the official trailer for Cameron Crowe's pretty much, documentary on David Crosby, Remember My Name. And again, David Crosby was very outspoken. He was not one of those people that was afraid to say whatever the fuck was on his mind, and it got him in trouble a lot of times, and by his own admission, he burned a lot of bridges. Now, the context part, and it's important to apply this, the time period, was unique. Drugs, rock and roll, these dynamics now became enamored into what was known as the counterculture, the hippies, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But David Crosby was in the center of that. He was one of the pioneers within that. David Crosby also went through a pretty deep trauma in this time period, and loving the woman, the woman he loved died, was killed, and it fucked him up. And like a lot of people, especially high-functioning empaths, when we experience deep trauma, we tend to try and drown ourselves to not feel it. And that's what Crosby did. He drowned himself in drugs and alcohol, and it pretty much resulted in hitting bottom and spending a few years in prison in Texas for, cocaine and weapons charges. He was definitely an American outlaw back in the day. And even until just recently. I mean, this is a guy, he was 82 years old, was still out there fucking touring. And as Adasa says, he lived in Fort Lauderdale back in 79 and partied with some of her friends. He had a huge heart. He just wanted the pain to go away. Yeah, he's spoken very publicly about that. He minced no words. And, one of the things that I always really appreciated and respected, he owned his own shit. He didn't try and be like, okay, he was like, listen, I was fucked up and I fucked up and I did fucked up things and I burnt bridges and I can't repair them. So I'm going to do the only thing that I can do is try and move forward and be a better person. This man lived to perform, and, he made a point to involve himself within dynamics of things that most people, again, never get the opportunity. AKA example, back in the day, he was very heavily involved with the civil rights movement. He believed, and he spoke, and he wrote a lot about the dynamics that were killing this country at the time. Also in context, Vietnam was going on at this time, so there was a lot of stuff in play that influenced these dynamics.
Kind of that, counterculture.
Well, again, and, just to give you an analogy, again, this is from not even a year ago. Brother Crosby was like, weed is the magical fruit. Okay?
It is, though.
And he would talk about this. He didn't drink anymore. He didn't do cocaine or hard drugs, but he continued to smoke weed. He was, like a lot of us, given the option between opiates, pharmaceuticals, and marijuana. He chose marijuana to deal with some of the pain and health issues that he had. And, he lived to be fucking 82 years old. So
I'd rather go for
I don't know,
any day than an opiate.
Maybe he did something right, but again, it wasn't without its price. You know what I mean? But he was very outspoken about it, and he had talked about it for many, many years. He felt that the drug wars were really biased in the dynamics, not only in regards to race, but more specifically in regards to class. That it was really designed to keep middle and lower class poor people contained within what they could do to feel good. And he used to talk about it. He liked smoking pot. He had fun. He liked people who had fun. And he wrote beautiful, great music while smoking weed. He tells a famous story about when he was hanging out with the Beatles. And this was during the recording of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which, again, for the time period, was something that had never been done before, especially not within rock and roll. And it was a huge influence. It changed the dynamics of how recordings were done and how bands would produce music going forward. So he's hanging out with them, and this is around the time, the Beatles also were smoking pot and dropping acid. This was a thing, they hung out. So Cross is hanging out with them. They get really fucking high, and they bring in these big fucking monster speakers, and they put them on either side of him, and then they play A Day in the Life before it's released. This is before Sgt. Pepper was even released. This was the studio recording there in the moment, and they all went off all stoned and just left him in the room all fucked up to experience A Day in the Life at full blast. And David Crosby, and he says, the last note of John Lennon's piano, the way that it reverberated through him, he said it would literally was, it was a spiritual experience, and he remembers it to this day.
You know? Yeah.
You know what I mean? 'Cause having never heard it before and then experiencing within the context. Now, again, footnote, anything that you do, and he talked about this, not only within the dynamic of weed, but anything that you do out of balance potentially can be harmful. That includes drugs, that's food, that's money, that's sex, it's everything. Anything that you can engage yourself in, if you don't have a balance within it, it can fuck you up. So I say that for anybody out there is like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to go out there and smoke. Well, if you want to smoke, go ahead and try it. Make sure that you're in a good context with a good support system. I don't recommend, you know, especially if you've never done it before, that you just, you know, sit out in the middle of nowhere and do it by yourself. You know, it's always good to have.
End up a paranoid mess.
Well, listen, I always believe in the spotter system. It's always good to have somebody with you just fucking in case, because you never know. It's better to be safe. But again, if your option is, say, like for me, because of the arthritis that I have in my hands and how many times my nose and jaw have been broken and stuff like that, and being a guitar player, I have limited options to be able to deal with that type of pain. Fucking pharmaceuticals are a death sentence, okay? They are a death sentence for all intents and purposes. There is no future with opiates or any of that fucking shit. So
Preach it, lover.
The last option really out there is this thing that, hey, you know what I mean? It just grows.
Weed, glorious
fucking
weed. You know
what I mean? It just, here it is. I grow. I'm a plant. Go ahead, dry me and smoke me. Feel better. Have a good time. You know, again, I'm not a rocket scientist, but sometimes, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. My sister Courtney says, a Cleus transmission by Incubus for me. Hey, whatever works.
No idea what
whatever
the hell
works.
means, Courtney, translation, please, for the...
And Hadassah, I feel for you. I wish you could smoke it as well, too, hon. I mean, there are
these days.
There are other options in theory. I don't know if the reason you can't is...
she's in Utah now, I think. And they're definitely not legal. I was having
but I believe in Utah, you can get a medical license for that.
I don't know.
Yeah, Brother Jonathan, quick note. Utah there. Utah medical marijuana is legal now, correct? Come on, my brother, the export. Export that expert. Jesus Christ. Well, it's like...
But that's all, folks.
Yeah, opiates, I sympathize. There does come a point
where you have to sometimes.
You know, that there are no options, you know. And especially, you know, in your case, and again, our sympathies and love and support, cancer fucking sucks. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a firm believer in you do what you have to do. Lesser of the two evils, if that's the only option, there's no judgment.
No, I know one thing's for sure. Hadassah don't take shit laying down. She's going to keep on fighting.
Yeah, listen, that's all you can do. And,
this girl.
You know, the people around you, for what it's worth, we will continue to send love and healing energy to the best of our ability. Right, it's a fucking quagmire between, you know, medical dynamics, religious dynamics, moral dynamics, economic dynamics. It's just like, you know, fucking alcohol is everywhere. You know what I mean?
And that shit will tear you up.
Every piece of science is like, alcohol is fucking poison. So, it is, you know, again, yeah, well, you know, again, lung cancer definitely makes it harder to smoke. But again, in your analogy, and I know, like what Shiya uses the gummies,
I love gummies.
And the edibles. So there are other options if you can get it medically. And it may be something, again, and I always say this, have a conversation with your doctor or your physician. We are not licensed medical professionals. We don't even fucking pretend to be.
Nope.
Okay. I made my choices based off of my research, my conversation with my doctors based on what my options were at the time, and it works. You know, I'm going to be honest. It works for me, and it works for a lot of other people. So as my sister Courtney says, smoking and tripping and listening to that song on full blast.
I have a confession to
Make the confession.
My confession is I had a gummy. I am high as fuck.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, listen, I mean, again, just not to go off on too much of a tangent, but he was very, very outspoken. So outspoken that he became famous back in the day for a particular picture. Some of you who were alive at the time may remember this.
Heck, I don't remember this.
This was a political statement by David Crosby because he was really fucking kind of tired and he was really kind of gritty about it. He's like, fuck the police. Okay. He didn't really like the things that were going on around him, and he was at a point that he could pretty much say and do whatever the fuck he wanted. So he was the kind of guy that would make statements and would go out there and be like, oh, you don't like what I'm saying? Good. I'm going to say it again. Oh, you want me to say it a third time? Fuck you too. You know, that was the kind of guy that he was. But he was also an incredibly loving and giving person. It's just, again, context being what it is, you know, if you caught him on the bad end of being fucked up and stuff like that, all bets were off. And anybody that's dealt with somebody who's in the throes of a deep addiction like cocaine, like alcohol, like heroin, they're not the same person. They're not. All right? There is the simple truth. They are not. It's not to justify the behavior. It's not to give them a pass. But it changes who you are, especially in the moment. So, again, think about any interaction you've had with a drunk person, and you know what I mean? You're not far off the beaten path. But he was known for that dynamic, and they got into some trouble, and, you know, no coincidence, he got busted with some guns and some cocaine, and got convicted, and had to spend some fucking time in jail. So, yeah, for all his fame, for everything that he did, he still had to. And a lot of people think that, you know, again, that was really because he constantly was like, you know, fuck you to the government, fuck you to the police. So they weren't really friendly about him. And, you know, as a certain witch sitting next to me can, you know, really, you can't fuck around in Texas. They'll just bend you over a barrel and cornhole you and then just smile and eat some barbecue. That's pretty much how it goes, right, Texas? Would you care to comment on that? See, I'm getting the silent treatment. She's just giving me the look.
No, I was actually looking something up. I was curious by something, so.
But yeah, I feel pretty confident, you know what I mean, that, you know, a lot of that dynamic for him was that he simply did not have any kind of filter. He spoke his mind.
Yeah.
And he pissed a lot of people off with some of it. You know what I mean? And
what was the context? Because I never saw this photo. Like, I guess his context was like weed.
Some of this was about, you know, the whole drug war. You know, that this is right around the time of, you know, Nancy Reagan.
America was like.
Right, and, you know, America is the country of guns and, you know, fucking death and shit. Now, he was a Second Amendment guy. He had guns all his life and stuff, but he believed in the responsible dynamic of it. But he really just didn't like the fucking establishment. He didn't like what he saw through the 60s, and nothing through the 70s made him believe that anything was fucking different. It was just worse. So he's very outspoken about it.
Nothing in the 20s ought to make him believe in shit either.
Well, I mean, again, he was a little bit more hopeful, but yeah, he had some choice words about some people that, you know, we don't need to repeat here. But also in the dynamic, he made it a point to target, you know, the dynamics of things that were against his own interest, you know. In other words, it's hard to get the record companies to back you and pay you when every time you do an article, you're talking about fucking how the record company are a bunch of scumbag rapists.
That's true.
Okay, who did he have sex with again?
Who didn't he have sex with? I mean, he was...
I don't know. A bunch of people probably, you know. I didn't really dig. I'm a guitar player. I'm a musician, so I wasn't really interested to whatever degree who he was fucking. You have to understand again, and maybe Tory. Yeah, I think that maybe got lost in translation somewhere. I do not remember saying anything about him. He had a girlfriend in the 60s. He had a girlfriend who died, who was killed, and that's what, according to his own words and his story, what shifted him into the hard drugs like heroin and stuff like that. So I don't remember what her name was, Marsha. I do apologize. But yeah, I do not know of said Tory. But he, again, he was very open and honest that, he did things that he shouldn't have done. And he did them for the experience. He was one of those people that, hey, I live my life and this is how I do it. Now, again,
can't blame him.
And I just want to share some of these because these, I think, are really... This is, again, circa the Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young Deja Vu album period, late 68, early 69 into 1970. And you can see there, again, there's the 12-string, you know what I mean, which he was iconic for. And they created some incredible music through this time period. Now, again...
And they've really influenced...
Listen, it's not everybody's cup of tea. You know what I mean? But, again, they played at a little show back in the day called Woodstock. And that's a picture of them from...
Teeny little show.
That stage up here in, upstate New York, where we're from, where we live now. Mm-hmm. So, they've been involved. How
big of an influence would you say David Crosby's music has had on you?
Oh, it had a huge influence because, again, the dynamics of 12-string, there were two acoustic guitar players that influenced me in that dynamic. One of them was Richie Havens, and the other one was David Crosby. They were both known for their acoustic guitar playing, and they both would play 12 strings a lot, which was not all that common, and the Byrds really set that into stage, and Roger McGuinn, who was the lead singer for the Byrds, started playing a 12-string because he loved how it sounds. So they had some of their unique sound was based off of that. And then they really set the stage, a lot in how not only music was written within acoustic aspects, but also how harmonies could just be spread all over the place. I mean, again, these three musicians were incredibly talented. They came from other bands. Stephen Stills was with a band in the day called Buffalo Springfield. Graham Nash was with a band called the Hollies. And David Crosby was with a band called the Byrds. And they were all friends, and they hung out in, San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury scene. And they just started playing. And from there, magic was born.
And they really have some very deep harmonies. I love it.
Oh, they have some incredible harmonies, incredible iconic tracks. You know what I mean? Again, and if you've never heard them, one of the things I'm going to play in a moment is an actual piece of archival footage from Woodstock. And again, it's not one of the songs that was on the Woodstock album. This did not make the cut because there was just so much fucking good music that, unfortunately, again, it's one of the ones that, was not on there. But it was preserved. The whole show was recorded from all types of things, and it's one of the things that is available out there if you know how to find it. So in keeping that spirit alive, and again, for anybody who's never had the pleasure of actually hearing Crosby, Stills, Nash, and I'm not talking Crosby, Stills, Nash as the recorded group on an album, a studio album. I'm talking Crosby, Stills, Nash live at Woodstock. So keep in mind, this particular song was recorded almost 60 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. And the sound, the whole imagery, everything about it, in my humble opinion, is magic. So we're going to do a little dance out, a little blast back to a time, to a place called Woodstock. And then we'll be back to talk about that a little bit more. Peace and love.
This is the largest group of people ever assembled in one place. The important thing that you've proven to the world is that 500,000 kids, and I call you kids because I have children older than you are, 500,000 young people can get together and have 3 days of fun and music, and have nothing but fun and music, and I God bless you for it.
We were gonna do a kind of a science fiction story, if you'll bear with us. It's about these people who are escaping the Holocaust, whatever it may be, and leaving it behind and escaping in the wooden ships.
Understand, 'cause that is something everybody everywhere is in the same
I can see by your coat, my friend, from the other side. There's just one thing I got to know. Can you tell me, please, who won the war?
Say, can I have some of your purple berry?
Yes, I've been eating them for 6 or 7 weeks now. Haven't got sick once.
Probably keep us both.
On the water, very free and easy, you know the way it's supposed to be. People on the shoreline, let us be very free. sister that never lead away from this foreign land. Far away, yeah, we might laugh again. Not leaving, you don't need us. It's a fair wind, blowing warm out of the south on my shoulder. Guess I set a course and go.
So yes, that was the iconic performance, Crosby, Stills, Nash at Woodstock, of a little song called Wooden Ships. Now again, those of you who've seen the actual Woodstock movie, which unfortunately this was not a part of, know that this was the first performance of Crosby, Stills, Nash as a band. Okay? And they joked about it when they got on the stage. Excuse me. They were scared shitless because this was the first time they were performing as a band.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it was their first show. Hadassah, my sister, listen, feel better, try and hang in there, hon. No apologies. Listen, you're falling out. You got to go where you got to go. So know that we love you and you hang in there and we will see you soon. But yes, it was their first show. It was their first performance. And it was, again, at a iconic festival that was meant to send a message. You know, again, for anybody that knows anything about the Woodstock Festival, it really was the brainchild to create this magic, showing that people could get together, all races, all creeds, all religions, and love and laugh and dance and sing together. And there was a lot of really different types of music at the Woodstock Festival. You had Sha Na Na, which for all intents and purposes was a 50s, doo-wop act. You had the early incarnation of Santana, which was really, again, very heavily Latin influenced.
I think Santana stayed very Latin influenced.
But I mean, again, even at that time period, it was a different.
That was a different sound.
That's a completely different sound, right?
Used to hearing, yeah.
You had Jefferson Airplane there. You had Janis Joplin there. And again, they weren't. A lot of these performances were not actually in the movie or anything. You also had.
Yeah, but I learned a lot from watching that movie. I was not exposed to a lot of this music growing up. So.
Well, again, context being what it is, this is why I believe, and it's one of the things I've talked about many times, why I do some of the things I do in the podcast. I believe it's important to pass it on. It's important to me. It's had an impact in my life, and I believe that magic should be shared, and it should be shared freely.
Absolutely.
So, that festival, had a lot of different dynamics within music, within musicians. The Who played there. Jimi Hendrix played there. You know what I mean? So a lot of iconic rock and roll and other types of bands and music was there. You had folk music, in Richie Havens, again, in the time period, as a black performer, you know what I mean, sharing the stage with other white musicians, which again,
that was unheard of.
Well, listen, we finally had gotten the civil rights, dynamics moving, but
still
we know that, even today we still haven't been able to flush it out of our systems as a country, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and we're not going to again digress heavily into that. But it does reflect the time period, and it reflects the motivations, the thoughts, the feelings, the fears, the anger, the resentment, desperation. But there was also hope. There was love. There was compassion. And there was tolerance, and a lot of tolerance. Now, I made mention earlier about the word hippie. And no coincidence, it ties in. My mother and I had a conversation the other day regarding David Crosby passing and some of his music, specifically a track, and again, that I started the show off with, Almost Cut My Hair. And there's an iconic line in it that talks about letting my freak flag fly. Back in the day, okay, hippies were not a thing, okay? They didn't refer to themselves as hippies. Hippies was something that was coined within the media and newspaper and magazine. They referred to themselves, the counterculture within their own dynamics, as freaks, okay? That was the inside word, if you find a, lack of a better way to explain it. So hippie wasn't a thing. So everybody hanging out there, they didn't refer to themselves as like, hey, what's up, hippie? The hippie thing really didn't catch traction till much later into the 70s. They were freaks. So when David Crosby talks about letting his freak flag fly, that was code. That was the counterculture reference to being part of that scene. Letting people know, hey, I don't buy into this establishment bullshit. I'm not buying into the war. I'm not buying into the racism. I'm not buying into any of it. Jimi Hendrix also makes reference. Okay? He's going to let his freak flag fly. So you'll see it if you listen closely, if you look at some of the music and the writings of the time. Now, David Crosby was also a poet, and he believed strongly. Granted, he definitely had some darker elements, but he had some very hopeful elements within a lot of it as well, too. And again, it depends on, what circa time period you're listening to David Crosby's music, because he released a whole lot of solo albums, but he's remembered primarily for the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, Nash. Very good poet. Yes, thank you, my sister Elizabeth. Very much so. Now, this is an iconic photo right here of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Now, the earlier picture, if you notice, the other two guys were cut off of it. And a lot of how the record companies handled it really, unfortunately, just focused on the main people. And that pissed these guys off. And it pissed David Crosby off to the degree that it eventually broke up the band. David Crosby did not give a shit about how the record company looked at it. He didn't give a shit how any of them looked at it. He was a driven person, and he fucking, come hell or high water, be damned. You know what I mean? If he believed in that dynamic, he was going to chase it. He was like a pit bull. If he got his teeth in, he wasn't fucking letting go. Yeah. Now, again, in retrospect, and by his own words, which is why I really recommend, anybody that has, any interest in the time period, the music, or the man, definitely check out Cameron Crowe's documentary. It's definitely worth it. Again, it's running on Stars if you have Stars. I'm, again, usually do not promote anybody or anything else outside of that, but you got to go to where the shit is. So,
sometimes,
you know, you can go to any of the other, you know, streaming services. You can buy it on demand. I think it was like $4. It's not really expensive. It wasn't a blockbuster, you know, Academy Award winning movie, but it is a beautiful, open, honest story. And it's very hopeful because it deals with the aspects not only of addiction, but of the emotional dynamics that push us into those places. You know, we all struggle within those things, and not all of us, thankfully, head down the road of addiction, but sometimes we head down other darker roads. And these narratives are important. It goes back to the whole dynamic of strength in numbers. When we can share, when we can empathize, we can then understand. And that really is where I believe at least true compassion comes from. So they were very adamant about certain dynamics of things. Oh, the name of the movie is Remember My Name. And it's by Cameron Crowe. It's about 3 years old. It's out on Stars now, like I said. And you can get it through, you know, pretty much most of the pay demand things like Prime Video and VOD, you know, any of those. Yeah, any of those types of things, you can get it. If it's something that you're interested, I'm sure it'll make the rounds between the other pay
and a lot
services.
of people are going to be watching it right now.
Well, this is the shitty end of the stick. When somebody dies, then, you know, the interest all of a sudden spikes. Now, granted, I'm okay with that. Listen, if it gets a few more people exposed to his music, if it gets a few more people talking, if it gets a few more people thinking, fuck it. It's a good thing. I'll take it, you know. But also in the same instant, you know, again, ironically, you know, I just restarted, you know, doing some of this stuff again within those elements. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, again, for me, one of my, you know, big influences, you know, has now passed. So, again, it's bittersweet. You know, there is that subtle irony that, okay, you know, time does not stand still. And he, you know, very famously sung about that with the Byrds. You know what I mean? You know, for everything, there is a season, you know? So,
love that song.
You know, that's David Crosby. David Crosby made that song famous. Okay, iconic. So, again, even if you're not familiar with everything that he did, most people have heard, you know, Turn, 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 or 8 Miles High, or they've heard Our House, or Teach Your Children. You know what I mean? These again, within the framework of classic rock, are, you know, these are like the golden, staples. Yeah, these
even
are...
those of us who weren't exposed to a lot of that growing up still got some of these ones.
You'll hear these songs in movies from Forrest Gump to fucking Minions to this to that and everything in between.
There was a television show that did the Our House as a theme song.
I don't know, but it's been licensed out so many different times. In the spirit of keeping, you know, music alive, you know, I get it, I understand it. I, again, also reflect some of the philosophies, and it was a philosophy my mother had at the time period as well, too. And it really was what Crosby's big problem with the band was how much money's fucking enough. You know what I mean? When people can't afford to buy your music, what good does it do? And he, again, that's why they played Woodstock. You know, he left a huge record contract, caused all kinds of shit when he left the Byrds. And when these guys created this band and stuff like that, you know, I think, at least from the record company's perspectives, was just like, all right, fuck you guys. But they proved them wrong. You know, and again, they changed some of the dynamics of how record companies now had to deal with artists, that they weren't just going to tell them what to do. You know, the Beatles infamously set the stage, but you got to remember, they all hung out together. So, you got to remember, there would be parties with, fucking John Lennon and Mick Jagger, Jimi Hendrix, Stephen Stills, David Crosby, fucking Janet, these iconic people,
wall, man.
Would make music together. They would laugh together. Sure, they got fucked up together, but again, it was part of just the way. It's no different than, people going to a football game and drinking Budweiser and getting shit-faced and, crying because, the ref missed the call. You know what I mean? To each their own. Within reason. Again, Crosby was the first person to admit that it was fucking hellacious. It killed Jimi Hendrix. It killed Janis Joplin. It killed Jim Morrison and a whole host of other people down along the way were fucking destroyed by the specter of drugs and fucking alcohol. So in many ways, he referred to it again as their modern day Frankenstein. They let the genie out of the bottle. They opened Pandora's box, started experimenting, and, it's not like there wasn't dysfunctional behavior before. It's just, okay, now we have something new to indulge our dysfunctional behaviors. So, again, you could look at it from one way, you can look at it from this way. Does it reflect all of it? Obviously not. Perspective being what it is.
Can anybody ever really reflect all of it? I mean, it's really like you have 10 people in a room, you'll have 15 versions of the same experience.
And, music has that, and I believe people are entitled to that. Music speaks to us and how it speaks to us. Everybody has different interpretations on certain songs. A person will say, hey, this song is about this, and somebody says, no, it's about that. Well, you're both right. Maybe you're both wrong, but it really is, again, that perspective dynamic of how it makes you feel, what you take from it.
That's the magic of it.
Right.
It speaks to each of us differently.
However, as a musician and a songwriter, and again, something that Crosby felt very strong about as well, too, within the dynamic of a song is a story, okay? And there is a point. Whether people actually get that point or not is open to interpretation and debate. All we can do as the storyteller, as the composer, is put it out there and say, okay, here it is. This is my representation. It is the same dynamic within poetry, and we're going to get to the poetry in a couple of minutes. People have different reactions to words based on their connection, their experiences. So all these different variables are unique, okay, and cannot obviously apply across the board to everyone. It's just no fucking way possible. So you can look at a person, or in this case, a songwriter's own words, David Crosby's, in how he wrote some of his songs, which, again, very specific, almost cut my hair. You know what I mean?
Almost did it.
But there would be other subtleties of things, the play on words, freak versus hippie versus counterculture versus fucking pinko communist fucking left-wing cocksuckers.
Going down this rabbit hole.
Well, listen, I mean, again, but you got to remember, in the time period, this was the boogeyman, for at least, mainstream America. These dirty fucking hippies, they must be communists, they're doing drugs, they're fucking goats, you know what I mean? They're eating goats, they're sacrificing goats. But this is no different than what happened in Salem, you know what I mean? Anything that's outside the establishment, anything that's outside of that structured control dynamic,
or that threatens their power base,
or that threatens the power base, which again, the counterculture really did, because, and here it is. Here is the simple truth. And this is from the FBI, boys and girls. And I know there's maybe 2 people watching this right now. So for 2 people, we're going to plant the seed. Here's the truth. The thing that really freaked them out and caused a lot of the problems is because really, for the first time since World War II, and really the Civil War, you had blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, all coming together and saying, this is fucking bullshit. This war is fucking bullshit. These policies are bullshit. And guess what? The things that are happening out there that people are screaming about and losing their minds about are the same fucking things that have been happening generationally. It's the same shit that was happening out there in the 60s. Okay? The cops are going out there and beating the shit out of anybody and everybody that fucking looked a particular way. Now, does that mean old cops are bad? Of course not. Do we have a problem? Yeah. Okay. But it isn't just that. I mean, the other side of the coin, and, you know, we were talking about this last week, you know, you have cops that become memes because they're fucking everybody in their fucking squad, and then it all goes public, people get fired, and it's just like, wow, we have children with guns running the show.
Yeah.
Okay? We got to do better. That's all I'm saying. Okay? I support law enforcement. But if the best you can do when you show up on the job is decide who you're going to blow, fuck you. You got to go. Okay? You got to go. Just that simple. But again, it was reflective of the times. It was a lot of love, a lot of hope, a lot of drugs, and a lot of fucking chaos. You know what I mean? Another song that Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young made famous was a song called Ohio. And Ohio is very, very direct in its story. It's about the Kent State shootings where, you know, the cops went in and just decided to blow away some college students. Yeah, you know, this is our history. That shit really happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there are elements of things we forget. And because we forget, we don't understand sometimes. Sometimes we simply have not learned the lesson, but also sometimes we just, again, lose the cognitive connection with, okay, maybe there's a pattern here. You know, one of the things that
if we don't study history, we're bound to repeat it.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I got dropped in my lap today, and I'm going to be talking about it on a future podcast, is a correlation dynamic from the early 60s with my grandfather and a particular incident that went down in North Carolina that, you know, I wasn't alive for, but not only was I not aware of, my mother wasn't aware of. Neither one of us had known that this was something that had happened and was tied into, you know, indirectly to our family. My grandfather by blood, my father's father, but, you know, my mother obviously married into it. So as she's fond of saying, hey, her genetics are cool. She don't have shit to worry about. Me and my kid are the ones that have to deal with the fucking...
Oh, thankfully you've broken the conditioning.
But I believe, listen, there's a dynamic where we hold some responsibility, if nothing else, to call it out for what it is. So I'll talk about that at some point down the road. So before we get too much further and we lose the rest of the evening, we've been talking a lot about the Wolf Pack. Yes. And basically it's just, hey, share whatever magic you have to share. It could be visual music, it could be poetry, it could be art. Get asked questions, strange fucked up stories, memes. Fucking Brother Jonathan said dirty fucking limericks.
As long as they're original.
As long as they're original. Whatever. You know, we really enjoy and we want to share. We want that dynamic back and forth. So,
and if you want to be anonymous, all you got to do is say you want to be anonymous.
Right. And in this particular case, you know, if the dynamic, if you want to be known as somebody else. So tonight we have a couple pieces of poetry from the poet named Tabitha. So Tabitha, thank you for your submissions, and this is you. So we'll start with the first. A tear lingers on the corner of my tired eye. I miss my people, miss my hope. Used to get me by. I'm sorry I'm not better at living this life. I miss talking to my brother. Cuts like a knife. Two are dead and one in jail. Life can never be the way we hoped, the way we dreamed. It's all misery. I know I'm blessed with many things. Why can't I be happy? There's always something lacking. A normal family. My heart is in a million pieces, thrown into a box. It rolls around like shattered glass. No one can unlock. I'd really like a hug from someone who understands. My little girl gave me a hug that made me feel more bad. It's not her job. I am her mom. Now I'm bringing her down. Days like today, sorry to say, I don't want to be around.
That's heavy.
Now that's a bit dark, but
it's an
beautiful. Listen,
an honest context of how you feel, and sometimes you have to express these things and let them out, or they'll eat you alive.
The only way to deal with darkness is to understand it. No matter what anybody says, no matter how you dance around the rhetoric, no matter how you hide it or obscure it with morality or religion or anything else, it's the simple truth. We have to deal with these elements, especially when they're inside of us.
Yeah, and if we sit there and ignore them, then they will eat you alive. Then you will get to the point.
It is the power of manifestation. Yeah. Just as we can manifest good, positive, healthy dynamics, we manifest the most horrendous, nightmaric fucking horrors you could ever imagine, and we tend to be our own worst enemies. We give the demons their power, for lack of any other way to put it.
You wrote a song about demons.
Yes, I did.
And why did you write that song?
For the very same analogy that Tabitha wrote this, in dealing with an element from my childhood, a context that had affected me, and especially in the scope of becoming a parent, it was something that I had never really expressed, that I had really never just taken out and just said, here, I'm not carrying this. And that, you know, poetry, music, art all share a very similar energy in that it allows us to take something and create something else with it. So you can take a story and you can create love, you can create fear, if you see where I'm going.
I will say to Tabitha and to anybody else who heard this bit of poetry that, yeah, no, you're really not alone. There are more people than you realize that actually do understand this, that understand these feelings and frustrations. So that's why we need to talk to each other about these things, to reach out to each other. You know what? When you're feeling that bad, it's really hard.
It is. And sometimes, again, just in the dynamic to know that we're not crazy. You know what I mean? That we're not somehow off base in it. Because when we can relate, especially within the framework of empathy, it makes it easier. It is, again, the purest dynamic.
I felt this way before.
Of strength in numbers. Yeah, so, absolutely.
And I will say genuinely, if anybody is feeling desperate, like they need to reach out, I'm here.
Yeah, by all means. Listen, don't go off into the darkness alone. Okay? First rule of surviving a horror movie.
Strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers. All right, so the next one. Again, from Tabitha, the poet. The color blue is tried and true, in spite of what we thought we knew. Enlightenment will beacon through, with more for me and also you. It's in the water, in the sky. It's rare in flowers and our eyes. It really is a magic dye that paints our flag and butterflies. Blue is calm and it's a storm. It's seen a lot, but not the norm. It's in our veins and in some lore. I could go on, but then what for? Again.
I love blue.
Very, you know, again, nice little cadence, you know what I mean? Almost not like, again, I got a little bit of that Dr. Seussian vibe. I saw some like Whoville type, you know, they're all dancing around and with they're blue. Right. You know what I mean? So it has that simplicity, but again, many times we overwork things. So simplicity has a natural beauty to it within the cadence of words. It's in the water, in the sky. It's rare in flowers and our eyes. I will not eat that Sam I am. I will not eat them fucking green eggs and ham. You see where I'm going? I mean, again, but it's beautiful. It's iconic. I like it. You know what I mean? I thought it's very well written.
If it was blue eggs and ham?
What? Why you had to go there?
Because it was about
Why do you have to fuck it up? Don't you know we're live?
Yeah.
I mean, really, what's with you?
I'm a tiki witch.
You're tiki witch, yes. So, the last one again, little bit into the darker, but also in a supportive, helpful thing. And again, framed by our poet Tabitha in helping somebody. And she was very specific in that this was written with a very specific intent. And that's powerful.
Yes.
Magic. When we focus it. So here it is. I understand how hard it gets. You're at the end, there are no wits. About you in this crowded mess, it seems no one comprehends this. The sadness and the deep despair that come from missing close and dear, the love and loss that is so rare for those you held close in your care. This kind of love, a cherished gift that in the heart can cause a rift. I hope you feel as heavens lift the soul above in this moment. Look to the sky and you will see God is with you and his mercy. For in this life we will feel grief. All in the end, it's all lovely. So again, a very specific dynamic framed for a particular person. So, again, some people would have, oh, there is no God. Yeah, you know what? Listen, a word is a word. You can reference a dynamic to convey an emotion. Right. But again,
but it reminds
the sadness and the despair, it touches upon those deeper, dark elements where, for lack of a better analogy, when people are drowning. So what do you do when you see somebody drowning? Instinctively, most of us want to help them. We want to get them out so they can fucking breathe. And sometimes that is achieved in just this context with words.
And it reminds me of something that you say about grief, too, is that when we grieve, it's because there was a real connection there. And
absolutely.
And in the end, that's still lovely that you have those memories. Better to have loved and lost, kind of thing.
But also take it 2 steps further. Within the framework of words, within a poem, within a song, okay, there's a correlation that I think you will appreciate. Because in what dynamic really is the difference in a spell? Because a spell is a series of words. It's a chant. It's a dynamic of using crystals versus a guitar or a keyboard to tune within a frequency of energy, a dynamic, be it chakra, be it Reiki, be it Tara, be it whatever it is. But the whole core line analogy of magic, spellcraft. I've talked about this before. Spelling the word, the derivative spell. You know what I mean? There is no coincidence within these dynamics. So a poem, in another translation, is a spell.
Many of the spells I write are poems.
Right. It conveys the dynamic of emotion. It conveys the dynamic of a moment in time or many moments in time. But it, again, is unique to the writer and then put out there to be interpreted. And, with any luck.
Oh, and Tabitha wanted you to know, thank you, and Dr. Seuss was her favorite kid author, too. So
see, there's no coincidence.
A little bit of that,
that
in there. So she just texted me, she heard you read her poetry, and she just said that Dr. Seuss was one of her favorites growing up.
Very cool. Kiara, thanks for joining us. Hello. She says hello to you.
Hello, my dear.
She said hello to you first. I only get second. Because I'm not special like that.
No, you're kind of special.
You've broken my heart.
Don't break his heart.
Yeah, I can't do podcasts anymore. Chiara is.
Oh my God.
See, I'm just an asshole like that. You just came in. No, that's a beautiful name. I'm assuming that it is female, and if it is not, I truly and humbly apologize. No joking aside. I'm, again, assuming.
No, that's a correct assumption.
Okay.
So you're good.
But sometimes I just, again, I'll see a unique name and I'll be like, okay, you're the next contestant.
Oh, it's a cool name.
Yes, it is. It is a very beautiful name. So yes, thank you, Tabitha, for sharing that poetry. And again, as for those of you who can actually see the screen, and for those of you who can't, who are just listening, share your stories, share your poetry, share your original music, your art. If you got a question, you got a story, whatever the case, we want to hear it. We want to put it out there. Okay. If you want to come on the podcast and you want to tell your story, tell your joke, you're like, listen. And I've had a few people, we had that scenario that one time, people are like, listen, we really don't like the way the wolf sounds. We don't like the cadence of his voice. Okay. We just really don't feel. No. And that's in fairness, we have to cater to the people that don't like me.
Oh,
okay. So now I'm catering to the people who don't like me. Hey, you want to come on? You want to tell your joke? You want to tell your shitty story or whatever the case may be? Please, we literally will welcome it. Okay. Don't get me wrong. Okay. If you come out and try and do some crazy dingo shit, I'm a wolf for many reasons.
He actually has a little beepy button. I normally beat myself with that to fuck with people.
And that's the gentle case scenario.
Yeah, the other
okay.
Hang up.
No.
Oh, no.
It's a saving throw with disadvantage and prepare to be taking psychic damage.
Oh, yeah. So. Vicious mockery. Oh, dear.
Yeah, no, because that's really just more of a.
That's if a Scientologist comes on and wants to argue Scientology.
Yeah, no. Vicious mockery is just really, that's an impassing kind of thing. I'm talking deep down. See, listen, there's nobody better at mind fucking somebody than a high functioning empath.
You
okay,
know
with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, most narcissists and most successful narcissists are empaths.
Yeah.
To some degree, unless they're a sociopath, and if they're a sociopath, then they simply don't have any fucking feelings. But don't kid yourself. Okay, weaponized empathy is a thing. Okay, it's real. So anyway, yes, send it to Wolf at oldwolfmusic.com. Real simple.
Down that rabbit hole.
Wolf at oldwolfmusic.com, and we'll feature it on the podcast here again, as long as it gets past the very couple of basic filters. And again, everybody, just like Tabitha, okay, anybody who submits something will be entered to win a free private tarot reading with the witch here, Lady Shiya, and if that's your thing.
Tabitha has now texted me one more time to let you know, whoever doesn't like the way he sounds, and I'm quoting, whoever doesn't like the way he sounds needs hearing aids. You both have a good voice for radio/podcast.
It seems your God is not here now. I do a lot of voices, and I'll be doing some more voices. Me and my son have been kind of playing around with a dynamic. We're gonna do classic stories, fairy tales, and things like that, but we're gonna do it in our interpretations with a whole cast of different characters. So yeah, we're gonna make it, attempt to make it a little interesting, a little fun, maybe a little offbeat. And now for something completely different. But it's all part of stuff that we are going to be doing in the coming months. We also have, as I mentioned, Ashley Hart's going to be coming on here for an evening to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. A friend of mine, Tom Hampton, from a band called Poco, guy who did some work. We did a track together called Mama Rocks. And we're going to be working on another track together. We've known each other a few years, but he's going to come on. We're going to talk about music, some dynamics of the music industry now, and just obviously creative creation. Creative creation. Is that a thing? I don't know. I just make shit up sometimes, just like my son, compromisation. For those of you who don't know what compromisation is, okay, yes. Compromisation is basically
the act of compromise with somebody who is less cool than you.
Right. So when you're dealing with the younger generation and they say, I'm going to compromise with you, okay? I got some compromisation for you. They're basically saying, yeah, you're just not as cool as me, but I have sympathy on you. So I actually am going to compromise, but I'm going to compromise in my own way because you don't understand what the fuck I'm saying anyway because you're fucking old. That's basically how that translates.
And they just don't realize that old age and treachery will beat youth and exuberance at every turn.
But this is the beautiful thing about magic. With magic, okay, you can cut through all those corners. I freak out people half my fucking age.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I freak out people who are twice my fucking age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Freak out people.
I'd let my freak flag fly.
Woo-hoo.
I make no apologies for it. Okay. It is who I am, but I believe in magic, and I believe that, again, with just a little extra effort, we can make shit better. We're not going to fix everything, okay? But I would rather try than not, you know what I mean? And also in the same instant, I'd rather, you know, as David Crosby said, I'd rather have fun with you all. I'd rather laugh and love, and we can all run out in the woods naked and lick beaver asshole together, you know what I mean?
Y'all can have the beaver.
Just, we have to make sure, and I do need to make a public service note. Fuck boys, you may want to fucking put a cap on it right now, because I'm reading some shit about some super resistant, super fucking gonorrhea. Listen, you know, I'm sorry, when I open up my phone and the headline is super gonorrhea, you know, I can't help but say, what's going on? What have I missed? I was focused on David Crosby dying. No. I didn't realize there was a super gonorrhea.
So the story goes like this. So he's sitting there and he does this thing where he sits there and reads the news feeds for a little bit, see what's going on in the world. And it's like, oh, David Crosby's dead. And I was like, oh, that's sad. We're talking about it for a minute. It's quiet for a few minutes. And then, oh, apparently there's a new strain of super gonorrhea going around. And he and I both look up at each other at the same time. Well, at least we don't have to worry
we don't have to worry about that shit.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those moments.
I got to be honest with you. It felt like Christmas in a way. I was just like, thank you, Santa Claus. You know what I mean? Because really, I mean, this is, you know, again, it's insanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so be careful out there.
I'm not saying, hey, listen, again, I'm not saying don't go out there and have a good time, you know, fuck if you want to fuck, you know, obviously consenting adults. Okay, guys, don't be grabbing, guys, listen, guys, don't be grabbing them by the pussy, okay, not unless they give you permission and ask you. It's just that simple,
and then
okay?
Examine the pussy first for...
Well, it goes both ways. Listen, there's only so much you can do. Just be cognitive that when you jump into that pool, it may be filled with super gonorrhea. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Brother Mark, good to see you.
Mark.
But yeah, that's the thing. And, you know, again, in the spirit of Cross, you know, I have to throw some sarcasm and some humor in there because I don't want to
appreciate that.
I don't want to just dwell on the fact that, you know, one of my fucking idols has died.
He would want
you know what I mean? That the list just gets shorter and shorter, and I just, again, I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook.
Death comes for us all.
Yeah, well, there's the honest truth. You know what I mean? But how we live is important, you know. And I thought the title of Cameron Crowe's, you know, document, Remember My Name. Remember David Crosby, okay? Remember him, you know. Well, he tried to the best of his ability, but he's a good representation, I think, of the human dynamic, you know what I mean? That despite the fame and the money and everything like else, he still ended up going to fucking prison because he just fucking, the floor underneath him fell out. And, you know, we didn't have some of the dynamics that we have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just, you know, again, and I hate to say it, and I'm going to take that final shot. You fuck up in Texas, that's your ass. That's it. You know what I mean? Yeah, keep throwing the bait at her if you don't want to play. You know what I mean? You know, it's just
I'm ignoring all of your Texas bullshit.
Listen, I loved it. Ma, if you're listening down there, I apologize. I'm not trying to begrudge you. I'm making fun of your daughter.
I'm ignoring the Texas bullshit so that the Texas bullshit will stop.
Sister Jennifer, welcome.
Yeah, don't buy into his Texas bullshit either, Jennifer.
Hey, remember the Alamo. Yeah. See, it's like that. It's like the Giants got your ass kicked. See, we can make jokes. We can be sarcastic about things.
All right. So Tiffany gave in one more submission, and it's a goofy story. So can I read it?
Nope. It has to wait till next week.
Okay.
Yep. That's production 101. That's how it has to be. I'm sorry. We cannot break the rules for said dynamic. But it will be on the next podcast. So just put a little note for me with that, and I will add it. So again, your submissions, please. wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. Send whatever you got. Jen's like, what the hell? Yeah, well, listen, I got her next to me. She's fucking, off on her one a crazy tangent type of things.
I'm always on a crazy tangent. What are you talking about? I'm a witch. It's what I do.
This is true. This is very, very true.
I live in Shiya's world.
Well, I live in that world too.
Yes. And I live in the wolf's world.
Well, we have our house. It's a very, very fine house.
With
3 cats in the house.
Yeah, 1 cat in the yard and 2 cats in the house. 3 cats, really.
Something, I don't know.
Yeah.
The song falls apart from there
It
because,
does. Oh, well.
as Jennifer says, what the hell? Yes. I'm in hell. Help. Somebody help me, please. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Water. Mother. So, yeah, Cross, you will be missed. Again, a huge influence for me musically. Yes, you got here and you have no idea what's going on. We're
being crazy.
Memorializing David Crosby, who just recently passed because he was a huge influence in my life. And just because he was a crazy motherfucker, I just decided I had to do some of my crazy motherfucker stuff. And because Shiya is from Texas and she's blonde, you know what I mean?
I'm not blonde, I'm purple.
Oh, well, yeah, I apologize. She's purple now.
Yes.
So I have to go for the low-hanging fruit sometimes. So it's one of our little games. Besides me, well, listen, I have a couple of particular games I like to play on a regular basis.
And so I'm just ignoring
one is Dutch Oven, okay?
Yeah,
and I've gotten her one. I've gotten her one.
Done that, you're
yeah, but that's a lifelong game.
Nope,
That's an accumulated score type of thing.
You won.
It's like Major League Baseball. It's like home runs. I have to accumulate. I have to accumulate enough home runs to be able to retire. And I only have one.
1,000%.
So we're not there yet. So yeah, we have Dutch Oven. That's a game that we play. She's gonna try and talk over me, but it's not gonna work. It's my show, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna fucking do. She'll keep spinning around like this, and she'll think that people are listening, but they're really not, because what they're really doing is laughing their fucking asses off.
Yeah, probably.
So the other game that I like to play is, wow, you're from fucking Texas, aren't you? And I just, again, low-hanging fruit. It's real easy. Y'all lost the fucking Alamo. You know what I mean? Got some crazy half-built fucking wall.
Hey, that ain't our fault.
Crazy shit like, this, that, or the other thing. And, again, ironically, and no coincidence, David Crosby got busted and had to go to fucking jail in fucking Texas. So, yeah, Texas ultimately was the place that ended up fucking David Crosby. And he said it, He's like, I got fucked.
To spread the message.
Yes, no fights, only love. And Dutch ovens. And
no Dutch ovens!
Jennifer's like, sucks balls. And no, listen, Texas deserves our weather as far as I'm concerned. Listen, no offense, it's the only way your fucking government down there is going to fix your fucking infrastructure grid.
Oh, no kidding.
Listen, all joking aside, I love you people down there. I love you people everywhere. I love people in general. You people, they people, that people. I don't care how you identify, unless, again, you're a child molester or a fucking Scientologist. But outside of that, and I say it jokingly, but you shouldn't have to be dealing with infrastructure from the 60s still, as far as a fucking electrical grid.
Shouldn't be getting
we live in, this is 2023. No more excuses. I don't care if it's left or right, Democrat, Republican. Fucking take care of the people who put you there. All right, stop talking bullshit.
And frickin' senators that run to Mexico because their power's out too.
I don't care who's fucking who or anything about that. Okay? Just make sure fucking old people don't die if the temperature drops below 30 degrees because nobody can figure out how to fucking...
Or stays over 100. They shut off electricity.
Well,
when you have that, that's also
listen,
dangerous.
It is bullshit.
It is bullshit, and they need to fix it.
And again, as David Crosby would say, the establishment is fucked up. It's not you, okay? It really isn't. It's not us, for the most part.
Or as the old wolf would say, I don't trust the government to make a peanut butter sandwich.
I don't trust them to make a fucking peanut butter sandwich. I really don't. You know, and I try. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I try not to fucking... I believe in science. I believe in hope. I believe in a people's right to choose. If that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. As long as it's not fucking anybody else up in the process. And there is the greater dynamic, and, you know, this is where, you know, I go to Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Okay?
Now, if you could say it like Leonard Nimoy, I'll be really impressed.
Yeah, I don't want to... No, I'm not going Spock this time. That'll be another day. I'm doing Cross tonight. So I'm just channel some of that inner angsty kind of fucked up establishment bullshit. Do your job. Stop making excuses. I mean, again, this is the insanity. We're spending millions of dollars and going crazy. And it seems like every goddamn fucking politician, Biden, Trump, and fucking Pence, they all have fucking classified documents all over their fucking houses. They probably use it to wipe their asses with. Okay? Why are we wasting time on this stupidity? You know what I mean? I bet you if we went to everyone, like we could go to Jimmy Carter's place, and he's probably got fucking classified shit from when Castro was still fucking alive.
Which might be classified
Who the
now.
fuck cares? You don't think there's some little fucking googly fucking North Korean that isn't hacking everything and putting it out in public forums, or another Edward Snowden that's hiding in your cell phone just waiting for you to spread your ass cheeks and send a pornographic picture to somebody you shouldn't? Okay? Every time one of these bimbos, and yes, I said it, I said the word bimbo. Every time one of these fucking bimbos go out there, oh my God, I can't believe that my pussy's all over the internet. Well, why did you fucking take the picture?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, he'd never do that to me. Oh my God.
Have I got some news for you?
And you know what really fucks it up? That within 13 minutes, all of a sudden you have an OnlyFans site. Coincidence? Probably not. Now, listen, I don't begrudge, and I have a lot of respect for women that are just come out there. So, listen, I'm not fucking around. I'm selling my pussy, and this is how much it costs. You know what? Thank you. Truth in advertising. Now we have established a baseline of honesty and communication. But trying to pretend that it isn't what it is doesn't do anybody any fucking good. You know what I mean? It's fucking chaos. And this is the type of shit that Cross would talk about. It's just like, this is fucking stupid. Yep. Let's just deal with, let's make sure we can feed everybody. How about we just start with one simple thing? Let's just make sure. No, just make sure everybody. Well, my running joke, and it's my joke, is that we have the technology and the resources to broadcast Paris Hilton's vagina across the entire fucking planet, but somehow we can't figure out how to keep children from starving.
Yeah. That's fucked up. That's called fucked up priorities.
So somebody felt compelled and took the time and the resources and the money and the technology and everything to do that shit, but we somehow can't. Sorry, kid. I can't be bothered to make you a fucking sandwich.
Yep.
I mean, again,
there are kids in the United States, even.
I'll be the first one to admit I'm emotionally compromised by that type of stuff, so I tend to kind of, push the extreme bar on it. But it really is. It's fucking ridiculous.
Kids.
And again, this is, part of what David Crosby sung about and tried to talk about are the dynamics that we are all brothers and sisters. We need to do a better job at taking care of each other. We need to do a better job of communicating and just letting our freak flag fly. So yes, there it is. Again, it is unfortunate, but this is the great paradox of time and life. For every beginning, there is an end. And there's no way around that. But we can keep the spirit alive. We can keep the magic alive. I'm going to close out tonight with a track that I did just a couple of months ago. It's done, ironically again, on a 12-string guitar. And it's done in a particular tuning that David Crosby kind of made famous. David Crosby loved to explore, and especially within the dynamic of the 12-string, he would change the standard tunings to create different layers of harmony and notes between the established, at the time, chordal structures. That is something that you'll see in jazz and blues to certain degrees. But it really, again, was, a dynamic that was influenced, much deeper in folk music. But again, for me, some of the aspects of how I create my magic, really, like all magic, is learned from somebody else. We take it and we make it our own. We can create our own, but the core base starts from knowledge, and that knowledge we get from other people. So those odd little tunings I learned from David Crosby, not personally. He didn't sit me down and be like, hey, kid, here, play this. No, I listened to his fucking music. You know what I mean? And I emulated. And in that aspect, even now, all these years later, it still has an influence. So this track that I'm going to close out with, again, Shiya and I were in New Orleans a couple months ago, and we were literally on this magical place. We were just in this magical fucking place. She was able to, she recorded the dynamic. It's a one-off type of thing in the moment. Literally, the song was born. It happened there. The recording even has, the odd wind noise and the fucking crows. And no coincidence, the track is called Dancing with Crows, but it is done on a 12-string, which again, iconically, was David Crosby's thing, and in what is referred to as the Crosby tuning. So, thank you again, everybody. Know that you are loved. Love each other. And until next time, keep the magic alive. So enjoy a little bit of Dances with Crows.